Welcome to another episode of The Best Revenge is Good Living podcast. Now, your host, Larry Oaks.
So there's a reason these days why there's so much going on at one time and so many things put together so it's overwhelming for us. And I'm going to get into it. I'm going to get into how, in my opinion, again, this is all my opinion, but how we got ourselves in the situation with the things that are going on in Portland, that are going to Chicago, and all around the nation with these protesters or whatever you want to call them. But there's a strategy being implemented. And I don't know if anybody remembers, because there's so many things that are happening that stuff just gets overlooked all the time. 1 minute it's here, the next day it's gone. Our attention span and the way that we consume information and news is sound bites, headlines, and social media, Twitter and whatnot. But there's a strategy, and I'm gonna read this. I'm gonna go through a couple of things that I have right here so that we can get understanding of where we're at. Now, I've been telling you that there's a plan being worked out, and this is the long game. Okay, these folks are playing the long game. These people that are controlling the situations going on around this world have aspirations to rule one world government. That's why they don't want any borders. That's why they want one currency, the whole nine, right? So let's just take it back so that we can digest this and we can understand where we're at, and we can then make a decision on what we want to do and how we want to get involved. So in the mid 60s, okay, there was two university professors by the name of Richard Cloward and Francis Fox Piven. Okay, they were husband and wife, and they wrote a white paper. So the Cloward and Piven strategy is to force political change through orchestrated crisis. They wrote a white paper called "The Weight of the Poor: A Strategy to End Poverty." Okay, and it was in a publication called The Nation. Now I'm going to leave the links. I'm going to leave some links below to everything I'm talking about today, so that you can get an idea and start to do your own research, okay, on what I'm talking about here. But the end goal of the Cloward and Piven strategy is to create a political crisis leading to a guaranteed annual income. All right, does that sound familiar about what we're hearing today about an annual about a guaranteed annual income, or a living wage, or $15 an hour, or $20 hour minimum wage, or all these things like that, right? The main goal to achieve the crisis was to have a massive drive to recruit the poor onto the welfare rolls. So Cloward and Piven's idea was to overwhelm the federal government, okay? Back in the 40s, 50s, and the 60s, the type of people that were here in the United States were people that were hardworking people. Okay, they were proud people. They were not on welfare that as we know it today. There wasn't 2-3 generational people on welfare. All right, and what Cloward and Piven strategized, and what they were talking about, was how can they overthrow the government, because they were socialists, communists, okay, Marxists. They wanted to basically be done with our constitutional republic, because we are not a democracy, folks. We are a constitutional republic. And I'm going to get into a little later the differences between a democracy and a constitutional republic, and why you hear the newscasters all around the world, but especially in this nation, you hear politicians and you hear just the indoctrinated flocks here on this nation saying that we are a democracy. Okay, I'm going to get into that. But back to Cloward and Piven, and back to the strategy that we're at here today. They knew that they had to break up the family. Okay, you need to get the men out of the house. And I know I'm not saying anything new, but in order to do that, you needed to have income, right? So they went out and they did their community organizing. They had organizations like that. Students for Democratic Socialism. Then you had organizations that were basically terrorist organizations like the Weather Underground that bombed federal buildings and were actual terrorists. And so they wanted to bring down our constitutional republic. Okay. And they wanted to do that by overwhelming the welfare rolls. So they went out and they started telling minorities to sign up and signing them up and flooding and overburdening the federal system. When you just had, and I know this for a fact because my mom, for a short period of time, when I was a child, was on welfare. We got the government cheese. We were in the cheese line. She got some subsistence. So I know what it's all about. I'm speaking from living through this real thing. But my mom was also a hardworking woman. She only had a 7th grade education when my dad divorced her and left her. But she figured out a way. She got her GED and she worked to build, the role model that me and my siblings needed. But there was a lot of people that way that wouldn't go on welfare because, they were proud. What do? They knew if they go locally, it wasn't going to be big enough. So they had to go nationally. And they started signing all these people up, putting them on the welfare rolls in the late 60s, 70s, into the 80s, into today. That's why today in 2020, we have, I don't know what the numbers are as far as who's on welfare or not, but there's a lot of people on EBT and these other programs. Okay. So they hypothesized that lawyers could be recruited on a voluntary basis, especially under the banner of a movement to end poverty by a strategy of asserting legal rights. So enter the ACLU. Okay. Their ultimate aim of this strategy is a new program for direct income distributions, also known throughout history as socialism and communism, which has led to the death, despair, and depravity of hundreds of millions of people. Okay. Look at Venezuela, one of the most wealthy and prosperous countries in this world, taken over by these radical communists. Now people are eating animals. They're eating each other. They're dying. They're living in less than 50 years. That's what these people want. The AOCs of the world. They know that they're going to be okay. I don't care where you look. China, Russia, Venezuela. What a third world is you have the haves and the have-nots. There's no middle class. And that's the main goal that's being perpetrated here on the United States right now, is that they don't want a middle class. Okay. So let me tell you the 4 steps of the Klauer-Piven strategy. See if it sounds familiar and see if it makes sense. So the 4 steps of the Klauer-Piven strategy is: 1, overload and break the welfare system. 2, have chaos ensue. 3, take control in the chaos. 4, implement socialism and communism through government force. This is what we're seeing here today. This is the basis. This is the ideology. This is the entry level of the people that we see now, because these kids that are out there, and I call them kids because they're 20s, maybe 30s, but mostly I'd say in their 20s. But then you have the parent generation of these folks that are the Cloward and Pivens, right? That have indoctrinated them in this ideology, or if they're professors, I don't know what it is, to be honest with you. But to me, it seems as if these folks are clinically insane. And then you take that into making people believe that we are a democracy. Now, why are they always saying that's not democratic? That's not a democracy. Now, when you look at the definition of democracy, it says a form of government where people are represented, or people pick their representatives, and that's the thing. But they don't mention anything about a constitution. And that's the main thing that these liberals and these radicals that are here on this in nation right now that are running things, that's the main thing. They do not want to adhere to our Constitution. They do not want to adhere to the rights that are in the Constitution, even though I know we have God-given rights, okay? But when you're talking about in general, when you're talking about in mass, the difference between democracy and a constitutional republic is that in a constitutional republic, which is what we are, we pick our representatives and we are represented by them, but they have to follow the rule of the constitutional law. And that's the reason why you always hear democracy. This isn't democratic. This is because we're a constitutional republic. You have to follow the rule of law. The Constitution is the supreme rule in this country. And it's the reason why everybody wants to come here all around the world. Okay? Enter in the media elite. I'm going to concentrate on the media, but this goes for every sector. It goes for education. It goes for entertainment. It goes for corporate banking, corporate world in general. Okay. These people truly believe that they are better than other people. They truly believe that they're above the law because they are, because they get away with everything. It's not hard to see when you're looking out there, the discrepancies between the haves and the have-nots. And then you have this vast middle of the road. People like myself, people like yourself, who are trying to do their best to abide by the law of the land, to treat others as if they want to be treated, and love their family and go about their day and have a good life. Not political in any way per se, other than the fact that they want to have the ability to pursue liberty, okay, and happiness and prosperity. And you have these Chris Wallaces of the world, right? Whose dad was a elite in the journalism, who thinks that just listen to the way he talks to people, how he talks over people, how he thinks that he's something special, like he knows more and better. Okay, anybody that's fed lines, anybody that can research prior to hand, anybody that's ready, that you have your angle that you're pushing and you have the angle that you want to jump on people. Yeah, sure, you're going to look smarter, but you know what? People like him, I can't stand them. And I know most people can't either. They're pompous. They're arrogant. They think that they are high and mighty, and they're the biggest pussy motherfucking person in the world. Would get his ass beat, probably never been punched in his face in his life. And he's that type that knows that he's going to have some type of a bodyguard or a police or somebody, cameras on him. So he wants to talk his shit, but that's fine. So you have those kind of people, and you have all these elites. But I'm going to attach in here, it's called the American Empire and its media. And it's going to be talking about the Council on Foreign Relations. Okay, it was created in the 50s. And the Bilderberg Group and the Trilateral Commission. Trilateral Commission, I think, is the youngest one. It was like around 1973. And they are the Illuminati in North America. Okay, these people are the ones that create policy. They create everything. They go in, they sit, and they think of ways to rule the world, and they implement it because they are in control of all the corporate hierarchies. They are the CEOs, they are the VPs, they are the high-ranking individuals in all classes of industry. Okay, and then you have your middle class. So then what do you get? You get double talk, you get straight out lies, hypocrisy, and projection. Okay? All the Democrats do in 2020 is project upon others that which they do. Why? Because it works. It's been working for years. I accuse you of what I'm doing, and I say you're guilty. Prove yourself innocent. Because in the United States in 2020, you're guilty until proven innocent. But in a constitutional republic where they follow the rule of the constitutional law, you are innocent until proven guilty, right? So here's the difference. Let me show you this. The democracy. A democracy is ruled by a majority that enjoys unlimited power, and the minority group has no protection. Individuals can make their own decisions except in those situations that the majority has limited it. While all citizens supposedly have a say in government and are to be treated as equals, the majority often ends up tyrannically ruling the minority. The United States is commonly confused for a democracy. However, the will of the people should not and does not change the rules that limit the government's power. Freedom of religion is permitted to the extent that the majority does not limit religious freedom to the minority. Private property is permitted, though the majority may place limits on the property rights of the minority. Sound familiar? Now here's a republic. Follows a written constitution that protects the rights of the minority from being infringed upon by the majority. Generally, individuals can make their own decisions, especially in situations where the Constitution protects their unalienable rights. Generally, all citizens are supposed to have an equal say and be treated equally, especially as protected under the Constitution. Article 4, Section 4 defines the United States as a republic. General religious freedom is permitted, especially as protected under the Constitution. Generally, private property is permitted, especially as protected under the Constitution. So do you see what's going on right now and how it got there? You have strategies like Cloward and Piven who want to overload the government roles, who want to overthrow the government to bring in socialism and communism because they want to be the oligarchs. They want to be the ruling class. They believe they are going to be the ruling class. You have the elites in the media lying and misreporting and double talking and fooling the nation and the world with propaganda because they are connected to the people that rule this country and the world, namely the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderbergs, and the Trilateral Commission, who, by the way, illegally get together. These elected officials, presidents and vice presidents and senators and congressmen that are meeting with heads of nations, it's illegal and nothing happens to them. Okay. And then you have to finish it all off with, you have the hypocrisy and the confusion and the projection of these so-called wise and kind-hearted folk in our country, right? So then you end up to where we're at here today. So I don't know what's going to happen. I have ideas. I hear different things, but all I know is this: you need to stand up on your own 2 feet. You need to stand up for you as a man or a woman. We are all flesh and blood, men and women on this earth. We say what we do. We created the government. We control the government. They work for us. We do not work for them. But when you don't know that, when you don't know the law, you don't know the Constitution, you don't know your rights, then you're lost already. And don't get it twisted. They have when I say they, I'm talking about these government institutions, these the policing authorities, and all the freaking splinters that they have out there of all these different factions. They have the guns and clubs. But you have to stand up on your own 2 feet and state your claim. For the best revenge is good living. I'll see you guys soon. Peace and love. Remember, in life, the best revenge is good living. This has been another Pure Entertainment production. all names have been changed to protect the innocent. Remember to like, share, subscribe to that bitch. Peace.